Hello, good morning, everyone. Let's get started. We will be doing the musculoskeletal system this week, and that actually is two different things. We have the muscle, and then we have the bones. The bone portion is called the skeletal system, which is the one we will be starting with. In terms of difficulty, I mean, it's not conceptually, it's not too difficult, right? There's not a lot of things to figure out and understand. Certainly not as complicated as kidneys, but then there are a lot of memorization in terms of the names of the bones and the types of joints and things like that. So it's not difficult, but then it takes time for you to memorize them. Um, so yeah, let's get started. Functions of the skeleton. What do we need the bones for? Well, there are obvious functions that we probably already know, and then there are some subtle functions that we might not have thought of. So, for example, the skeleton is obviously there to help support the body. All the bones within our body helps us to sit up straight, to stand up, and not like slum over into a blob, right? Basically. So that is the main function. And also, in previous units, lessons, we talked about how skeleton protects soft body parts. We have the skull to protect the brain. We have the rib cage to protect the heart and the lungs. We have the backbone to protect our spinal cord, and so on and so forth. So these more delicate structures are often encased in some kind of bones to give it extra protection. So support and protection are pretty self-explanatory. These are things that we probably already know. And long time ago, it seems like a long time ago, in lecture two, we learned about the process of hematopoiesis, right? That's the word we use to describe formation of blood cells. And that actually happens in bone marrows, right? So bone marrow is the interior portion of our bones. And the red bone marrow is responsible for hematopoiesis, creating new blood cells. Now, all the bones in fetus is capable of doing that, but in adults, we have fewer active bone marrows, including femur. Femur is your thigh bone. I'll show you on the skeleton later. The pelvis and the sternum is right here. So these are some of the sites that remain active in terms of blood cells production. As we age, the red bone marrow slowly kind of get converted into a higher proportion of yellow bone marrow, which is primarily just fat storage, and they don't really produce uh, blood cells anymore. Okay, so support, protection, uh, creating new blood cells. Okay, please pay attention. I'm saying blood cells, not just red cells, right? White cells and platelets, those also came from the red bone marrow. Number four, the skeleton is useful for storing minerals and fat. You probably are aware that we store calcium in the bones, but actually, phosphate is um, another important things that we store. I wouldn't call it a mineral, okay, but then it's an important component that we store in the bones, and it often will be combined with calcium. Right, so Ca3PO42. We need phosphates for various reasons in the body. Your ATP, for example, adenosine triphosphate, the phosphate is this same phosphate. Right? So we store the phosphate in the bones along with calcium. There are other minerals as well, a little bit of magnesium, for example, and I'll show you the list. But calcium is the main one. Okay? Fat is stored in yellow bone marrow, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And finally, the last function that we're going to talk about is the ability to enable movement. So the skeleton themselves do not move, but then the muscle would attach onto the skeletons and it creates a wide ranges of motion depending on the kind of joints that you form, right? There are various joints in the body, like the elbow is a hinge joint, your shoulder is a ball and socket joint, right? It depends on what joint you are having, and then the range of motion that is permitted will vary as well. And we'll look at the different joints later on. Okay, so there you go, 5 functions of the skeleton. Now, the bones are, people think of bones as like something that's static, like a wall, like it's not alive, but actually, bone is very much alive, right? There are bone cells in the bones that are called osteocytes. Okay, and the function of the osteocytes is to help maintain the matrix of bone. Bone is a connective tissue. We learned that last semester, right? There are different kinds of connective tissue, bones, blood, cartilage, loose connective, dense connective, all these things. And each of these connective tissue has a matrix within which the cells are going to be living in. So for blood, the matrix is the plasma, okay, which is where the red cells, white cells, platelets are living in. And for bone, the matrix is pretty much the calcium and phosphate deposits. Okay, and you have all these bone cells that are living in there to help maintain this matrix. Now, bone is roughly 35% organic material, mostly collagens, which is a type of protein, and you'll find collagens in various places in the body, underneath the skin, in other forms of connective tissues. And the main function of the collagen in bone is to enable a little bit of flexibility. Okay. You don't want bone that is completely rigid like a, steel rod. Something like that is not very good at, I mean, it's strong, but then it's not very good at absorbing shock, right? And we want the bones to be able to absorb some shock, right? Able to bend a little bit to again absorb impact if you fall, for example, right? If you jump down from a high spot and you land on your feet, you want the bones to be able to absorb those kind of impact. And that's what the organic material is for. It gives a little bit of flexibility, able to twist a little bit without breaking. And the rest, the 65%, is inorganic mineral salt. So as I mentioned, most of it is calcium phosphate, but you have other salts as well, calcium carbonate here, calcium fluoride, some magnesium, so on and so forth, right? So whenever we have excess of these things in our bloodstream, we would deposit them into the bones wherever possible. Okay. Bone formations. Bones were not always bones. In embryonic development, you actually begin with cartilage. Okay? And in this picture, this is a 12-week fetus, and the bones are stained red, whereas the cartilage are stained blue. Right, so at the beginning, it's all cartilage, but slowly, as the baby develops, calcium will be deposited into the cartilage, slowly replacing the cartilage. Okay. And this process is called ossification. Ossification. And it actually begins pretty early in embryonic development, about 8 weeks of pregnancy. That's when the ossification process begins, and it's going to continue until even not until it's going to continue even after birth. right? It's not fully ossified yet. The babies, when they're born, not all the cartilage has been converted into bones. That's why the babies have the soft spot at the top of their head, right? It's called a fontanelle. You can see, pulsating, right? People say, it's the brain that you're looking at. Not really. It's just the blood vessels that are over there. And it's because the skull hasn't been fully ossified yet. Okay, and that's why babies' heads are um, still very pliable, I guess, that's the word. Sometimes if babies sleep on one side for too much, too long, they get what's called a flat head, right? And they actually have to wear like a special helmet sometimes, or like a special pillow that they have to help reform the head. We talked about hydrocephalus before, right, where you have the accumulation of CSF in the brain. And in babies, the head can get big because, again, the skull has not been fully ossified, and all that pressure is deforming the skull. Right? It wouldn't happen in the adult because it's completely ossified, and there's no room for expansion. Okay. Key takeaway point here, we did not start by creating bones immediately. Right? All the bones in the body at some point was a cartilage frame, and then through ossification, through deposition of calcium into the cartilage, they get converted into the bones. Right? That's why it takes a lot of calcium from the mom while carrying the baby, right? And uh, you need to make sure you have adequate intake of calcium so that you don't drain your own calcium resources and give it all to the baby. So bone mass increases until a person is about 24 years of age. Beyond that, you cannot gain bone mass anymore. Okay, it's just like declining slowly, and so you have to basically ensure you take in calcium um, continuously to help maintain the bone mass. You cannot get more, but you can maintain it and you can slow the decline, right? And bones are actually, like I said, not static. They are constantly being remodeled and repaired. Some portion of the bones can get dissolved, and the resources can be relocated to other parts of the bones. So in addition to the osteocytes, which are the bone cells that maintain the matrix, there are two additional types of cells that are found in bones. We have the osteoclast and we have the osteoblast. To keep it simple, osteoclasts, they absorb calcium from bones, and then osteoblasts, they put calcium in the bone. Okay, just remember B for Bill. Okay, so osteoblasts, they build the bones by putting calcium in it. Osteoclast class is to absorb the calcium from the bones, break it apart. Okay, sometimes you absorb the calcium and then you put it in the blood. Okay? And sometimes if you have extra calcium in the blood, you will put it in the bones. Okay. All right, we're gonna draw some pictures. Uh, I'll show you the picture. Gonna be drawing this guy along with this. It's very exciting. Hopefully it will make sense. So take out a piece of paper. I need my tissue paper to show you. Okay, just 1 second. All right, I got it. I'll show you in a second. But let's begin drawing, okay? This note is called structure Structure of compact bone. Okay, bones can be compact, as in like really, really dense, or it could be um, spongy, right? So the same bone can have compact bone and spongy bone. Usually spongy bones for long bones, usually spongy bones are located at the ends and closer to the interior, and then the compact bone are kind of in the middle. So let's just draw like a typical long bone here. Long bone is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bone that's long, okay? Um, Rectangular in shape generally. So this is going to be our long bone right here. An example of a long bone would be your humerus, the funny bone, right, which is right here. You also have long bone here, radius and ulnar. And actually, your finger bones are also considered as long bone, even though they are shorter than the funny bone. But because they're kind of rectangular in shape, we still call them long bones. Okay, so there is the long bone. Okay, draw your best bone right there. Now, at the ends of the long bone, at the ends of a long bone, you're gonna have a little bit of cartilage on it. Okay? At the ends of the long bone, you're gonna have some cartilage. Okay? These are called articulate cartilage. Which is exactly what you expect it to do. It prevents wear and tear at joints. Okay, so anytime you have a joint, there's going to be like some rubbing motion, and over time it could decay and break down and cause the bones to wear down. So we don't want that to happen too early. I mean, eventually it could happen. As you get older, you might get arthritis and fingers and joints get stiff, but we want to delay that process as much as possible. So we're gonna have some cartilage at the end of the long bone. Okay. Okay. Do I have to write long? You know what? I'm just gonna write long bone here. Long bone. Okay. Long bone is rectangular. Short bone is more like square. Okay. I'm gonna have a slide later that shows you how to classify them. But this is long bone that we're looking at. Okay. Now, at the surface of actually, you know what? Let's go through a few other things first. This right here, the ends over here, the ends of the long bone, we call that the epiphysis. Epiphysis. And the middle here, the middle is called diaphysis. The chef. Okay, the chef of the bone. It's called the diaphysis. And then over here, just like where the connection occurs, that's called the metaphysis. And there is a plate there called the metaphysio plate. You don't have to know that, but that's where the growth is going to be happening. Okay? So the bone kind of elongates at those junctions. Now I'm gonna kind of see through the bones, if you would. See through the bones a little bit. So in the middle, it's kind of like a hollow structure. We call that the medullary. Remember, medulla is the inside of structures, right? Renal medulla, the adrenal medulla. So this is the inside of the bone, so medullary canal. This is where you're gonna have like the bone marrow. Now over here, this is where you're gonna have, it's really hard to draw. I'll show you an actual picture later. But this is where you're gonna have the honeycomb bone, right? We call that the spongy bone. I'll show you a picture later. And then over here, along the shaft, along the diaphysis, that's where you're gonna have the compact bone. Compact bone. Really strong stuff. All right. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take a slice of the bone here. We're gonna take a transverse slice of the bone and we're gonna open it up and um, and look at the closer details for it. And it's kind of like this, okay? So this is like the tissue paper, right? So like the whole bone, and then I take a slice of this thing. Mm. What's the hole here in the middle? What's the name of the hole right here? Just checking to see if you can relate to what are we talking about.
Medullary canal.
Thank you. That's the medullary canal, and that's where the bone marrow is gonna be, okay? Now listen, at the edge, I can actually peel off a little bit of the bone. Okay, I can peel off a little bit of the bone. That is a thin piece of connective tissue. Okay, and I'm gonna give you the name, but we're gonna draw it out first. Now I haven't drawn this for like some time, okay? So let me try my best here. Maybe give me a second first, okay? Don't copy yet, just in case I messed up. I'll try my best here. Okay, so there we go. And over here, I'm gonna I'm gonna draw the thin layer that I just peeled off. Give me a second. And then I'm actually gonna peel it off like this. All right. After this class, you guys are all gonna be great at drawing. There you go. Okay. Do you understand what I'm trying to draw? And it's like this, and then I peeled off a slice. And so this thing here, this is called the periosteum. Periosteum. It's a thin layer of connective tissue covering the bone. Okay, let me give you a moment to sketch this out first. And I guess I should draw the rest of it so you kind of understand what's going on. It's gonna be like a slice. I'm not gonna draw the whole tissue paper, okay? I'm just gonna draw like a sector of it. Okay? Almost like a cake, nice a wedge of cake. Okay? There's a periosteum, thin layer of connective tissue covering the bone, allows attachment of muscle, blood vessels, and nerves. Okay, like I said, bones are alive. They have bone cells in it, osteocytes, osteoblasts, and they need nutrients and oxygen. So you're gonna have to feed the blood vessels into the bones. Okay, so draw it out. Give me a signal when you're done, and then we have a bunch of other stuff to add to this. Okay, let me know when you're done. Meanwhile, I have to work on something on the side. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. No, nobody's ready? Or you're not just not telling me. All right. Thank you. I'll give you maybe another minute or so. Half a minute? Yeah, sure. I know, it's a lot of stuff to write. No problem. 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, yeah, yeah, sure. Okay. Sorry, just multitasking here. Uh, so what have we got here? Okay, we have a wedge of cake right here, wedge of the uh the chef, the diaphysis, and I told you there is this little outer layer that you can peel off, and it's on the surface of the bone, which allows various things to attach to it, muscles, blood vessels, and so on and so forth. Now, this next part is uh, challenging to draw, but try your best. We're gonna have a bunch of circles here, okay? You can make them big, you can make them small. It doesn't matter, okay? But you're gonna draw some circles here, okay? Maybe you don't need to have too many if you are, running out of space or time. And then you're gonna draw more circles inside the circles, kind of like a bullseye, a target, right? Target. Gonna draw these things. Just make them nice like that. It's harder when you're not doing this on the computer. Your circle, or maybe it's easier. I don't know. Like the circles doesn't have to be perfect. All right, there you go. Beautiful like that. And over here, each of the circle ha is what we call an osteon. Osteon. Okay, an osteon. Osteon is the structural unit of compact bone. Compact bone. What is structural unit? Structural unit is the basic thing that builds up a structure. So what would you say the structural unit of a wall is? Well, the structural unit of a wall is a brick, right? So what's the fundamental unit that you use to build the whole thing? Right? So in this case, the fundamental unit, the structural unit, is an osteon. Not to confuse structural unit with a functional unit, right? When we were talking about the nephron, okay, that's the functional unit of the kidney. A functional unit, it's the basic unit that enables the function of the entire organ. Okay. Think of a bunch of people rolling a boat, right? On a dragon boat or something like that. The functional unit on that boat would be the rower, right? The individual people rowing and then allows the whole thing to move. Whereas here we're not talking about function, we're not talking about what it does, we're talking about how to build it. So that's why it's a structural unit. Understand? Now, what about the gaps? Well, the gaps it's hard to draw here, but you know you can just draw some lines. Okay, draw some lines there, here and there. Okay, these are all of them, including the osteons. They are all like calcium. Okay, calcium, phosphate, matrix, right? With all the other bone minerals that I talk about, calcium, phosphate, calcium carbonate, and all those things, it's gonna be all here. Okay, but every now and then you're gonna have these nice little osteons, kind of like I don't know, cinnamon roll, maybe bullseye, target, whatever, whatever helps you connect the concept. Okay, cinnamon roll, I like that. So that's an osteon. Okay. Now at the center of each osteon, we are gonna have what's called the central canal. Okay, it's the same name as the one inside the spinal cord. Okay, central canal. This allows blood vessel to supply the osteon. Okay, so there is another central canal right here, another central canal, and I hope you have colors. I know, I hope by this point you know to bring colors to my class. You're gonna have the blood vessels right here. Okay, there is nice uh arteries right here. Okay, coming up, okay, coming up. Yeah, you can draw more if you want. Okay, I'm just gonna put them in the center here, in the center. Now these osteons actually they run the entire length. Okay, so maybe just for the sake of showing you, I'm going to draw half of it here, half of an osteon here, and then I'm going to draw the rest of it. Like you see, it's running through the entire diaphysis. Okay, like maybe another one here or something. Another one right here, right there. Okay, and then they are sometimes like actually connected sideways here. I know it's really messy, but it will make sense. Okay, just give me a second here. I'm just gonna put the final touch on it and hopefully make sense. So like we would have the blood vessels coming in, latching onto the periosteum, and then they would be traveling sideways, and then it would go into the central canal and it will pop up. Go up and down. And then it might travel through another one here, and then it will pop up here. Okay. Do you understand? If not, please ask. Okay, I know it's a confusing diagram. Of course, there's like veins as well, right? So they would pop up, they would travel here, pop up here. There we go. So on and so forth. Okay, like I'm just cutting these off. Um, questions?
Where can we locate it, the medullary um, canal?
Where can we locate the medullary canal? Oh yeah, that's a great question. We're not there yet, but
Okay.
hold on. Okay, since you asked, right? So remember this here, like this is the toilet paper, right? This we're taking a slice here, okay? So the medullary canal where the bone marrow is, it's like towards the tip of the wedge, right? So like as we go towards the center, as we go towards the center, this is gonna be the medullary canal. Do you understand? But
Yes,
don't
thank you.
don't draw that yet. I have to explain a little bit more, okay? So that's a great point, actually. Don't confuse the medullary canal, which is the center of the long bone. Don't confuse that with the central canal. The central canal is in the center of the osteon. All right? All right, again, I'll give you a moment to catch up and, ask away if you have questions. Okay, I'm just gonna add a few more labels while we are at it. All right. Moving on, what else do we have? Now we're gonna add more details to our osteon. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit. Each osteon is its own unit, okay, and it's supplied by the blood vessels in the central canal. And in the osteons, you would have these little pockets. Okay, now your cinnamon roll, if you like that analogy, just became raisin cinnamon roll. Okay, so it has all these little pockets in it. There you go. And you can draw as many or as little as you like, depending on your mood, I guess. There you go. Right there. So these pockets, they are called, okay, I apologize for the weird names. They are called lacuna. That's how you pronounce it. And plural would be with an E, okay? And these are pockets where osteocytes are found. Right? Pockets where the osteocytes are found.
So I have a question.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if you recall it, but what is the circle? What
What is the
is
circle?
yeah?
So which these little pockets?
No. The first
The
circle we did.
the first circle that we did.
Yeah, that is, we say osteon. Uh,
This whole circle?
yes.
This whole circle is an osteon. And then the osteon has like additional rings on the inside. No?
Um,
Am I what can you clarify the question maybe? Which circle are we talking about?
uh,
Like this inner circle?
yes.
Yeah,
This yeah.
that inner circle would be the central canal. Here, let me show you. Um, okay, so This, guys, this is an osteon that has been cut open, okay? So that's the osteon, and in the center, that's where you would have your central canal with the blood vessels coming in, right? And the yellow thing is the nerve, which we didn't draw. And you can see all these rings that we drew, right? So that's a pocket, the lacuna that we just drew, and that within the lacuna, that's where you will find the uh, the osteocytes. Okay, but that's just one osteon. And you have many of these osteon that builds up the entire compact bone. Does that answer your question or not really? Have like a follow-up question?
No, it's not.
No. Okay. So again, these are lacuna, okay, but with an E if it's plural. So maybe let's look up a raisin cinnamon bun roll. Maybe it will help. Oh, without the glazing though. I don't want the glazing. Glazing is gonna make it confusing. Okay, there we go. Right? It's kind of like this guy. Yeah, I maybe this one. This one looks good, but it's really zoomed in. Anyways, can you guys picture it? Like what I'm trying to say, like all these raisin, right? That's the lacuna, okay? And then you have the entire cinnamon roll. That would be like the osteon. Is that okay?
Yes.
Now think about this. If you're eating the cinnamon roll, like the actual bun portion of it, okay? The actual dough portion of it, that is made up of the dough, right? Of course, the flour and everything, right? So in the same sense here, when you think about the osteon, the dough portion, okay, like this other stuff that's made up of the calcium and phosphate, we have another name for those as well. Okay, so like not pointing at the raisins, not pointing at the lacuna, I'm pointing at the stuff that makes up the osteon. That's called the lamina. Okay, and then plural is E. This is the mineral matrix of the osteon. Okay, that's where you'll find the calcium, the phosphate, the magnesium, and things like that. Okay, we are almost there, sort of. We just have to add one more detail to the uh, to the bones here. So if the osteon is, like a wall, which is like, completely solid, then nutrients can really pass through easily, right? Like I mean this blood vessels that comes up, how is it going to be able to get to the bone cells in the lacuna? Well, it turns out there are little cracks that kind of comes out radiating from the lacuna. Okay, now the cinnamon roll looks like it has bugs crawling all over it. There we go. Okay, there you go. So these little lines, little fissure, allows the blood vessels to send the nutrients throughout the entire osteons. Okay, and again, you can draw more later, okay? But I think you get the idea. So I'm gonna take one of these guys, and then I'm gonna take it over here, and I'll draw it bigger, okay? So this is the hole, the like a little pocket, and then these are the cracks that are coming out of it, okay? And inside is where you will find our buddy, the osteocyte, okay? The pocket, again, is lacuna. And these cracks that are coming out from it, that is called the caniculus. Caniculus. Okay, plural is caniculi. Okay, again, they are little small fissures, if you would, small fissures that radiate from the lacuna. Okay, so nutrients can diffuse into the pocket and feed the osteocytes. Okay, it gets easier after this. This is the most confusing part. Now, it's not all compact bone. As we get closer and closer to the center, the bone actually gets eaten away. Gets eaten away, right? So it's not going to be all solid all the way through because as we get closer to the center, it becomes the medullary canal, right? So the bones actually gets, like I said, dissolved and it's like full of pockets now. And this is more like uh honeycomb structure. Okay. These are holes, actual holes. Right? And then it transitions into spongy bone. Okay. This part here, if you still have space, this whole portion is compact. Probably have to redraw this after class. Compact bone, but it transitions into the spongy bone. So basically, you will have osteoclast dissolving the bone in the center. And actually, if you need to make the bone bigger as you're growing, if you're still under 24, right, congratulations, your bone's still growing. The new bones would be, the new minerals would be redistributed to the edge, and then you can kind of form new layers over here. Okay? And it allows the bones to grow in diameter. So essentially, it's like, taking bones from the center and then now rewrapping it on the surface. So this gets like thicker and thicker and thicker. And your medullary canal would get bigger as well. Right? The amount of bone marrow would grow. So eventually, the center right here, this is the medullary canal. All right. Questions? Just speechless, right? So much stuff. Wait till we get to the muscle. The muscle is even a little bit more confusing when it comes to drawing it. But that's it. That's it for the bones. All right. Of course, I'll post this, and you will have a chance to modify it later on, and perhaps redraw a better copy. Okay. So this is the professional drawing. It's basically, can you read the first word of lacuna before small? Oh, radiate. Yeah, radiate, radiate. I think it's radiate. Let me see. Small fissures. Yeah, small fissures that radiate from the lacuna. Oh, you're talking about this word right here? Oh, sorry. This is the name of the of those crack. Okay, it's called caniculus. Canal. Okay, and then Nicholas. Little canal. That's what it means. Little cracks. Is that the word you needed? So hard to even look how we are. Yeah, I know. I know. I mean the honestly, I think redrawing it several times would help. Okay, redrawing it several times would help. That's why like I took the time, like we waste not wasted, but then we took like 20 minutes to draw this thing. I could have just show you a picture and talk through it, right? But I think drawing it out would help you internalize it. When you build it from scratch, it helps you know what goes where, and the names might help stick in your memory a little bit better. Okay? I know it doesn't take away the fact that you still have to learn it and memorize it, but
So
at
I
least.
Yeah, I noticed that there is no lacuna
There's
uh,
no lacuna where?
on the close to the central canal.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean like you could draw them, but like this is the edge now, right? Remember, this is the hole, right?
Yeah.
Here, maybe it's better here. You see, this is the hole, right? The innermost circle is the hole, so you wouldn't have a pocket on the innermost circle, right? You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you will have these pockets right here. Okay. This is actual bone under the microscope. I was just showing it to my other class in person last week, and you can see these pockets right here, the lacuna, central canal in the middle. Okay, periosteum. Anyways, my suggestions is to like I said, draw it, but also Google compact bone and see different pictures, and try to cross-reference what looks like what. I mean, some of the things we didn't talk about, you don't have to know, like the trabeculate. Okay, we just call spongy bone. It's fine. All right, and here is the caniculi coming out from the lacuna. All right, that's that's the difficult stuff. The rest should be fairly straightforward, I hope. I hope. Okay. So the bones. We're gonna learn the bones of the body. There are 235 bones in the body, I think. We're not gonna learn all of them, don't worry. We'll learn most of it though. And the skull, plus the rib cage, along with the backbone, all the blue stuff here, uh, we call that the axial skeleton. The exoskeleton. That's kind of like the main core frame where everything else will be attaching onto. Okay. So the axial, once again, skeleton consists of the skull, the rib cage, and the backbone. Everything else, including the limbs, right, and the pelvic girdle, as well as your shoulder blades, those are part of the appendicular skeleton. Okay. So you can almost see a questions on the test, right? Um, which of the following bones belongs to the appendicular skeleton? You have to check them off, right? So we're going to be learning all these names together, and there are uh, uh, like me and the other prof, TJ, we did a series of videos on the bones. So please check those out. The links to these bones videos are all in the Lab 3 PowerPoint slides. And you know what? Actually, let me just put it in the chat box so you don't have to go look for it. Um, and there are a bunch of 3D models on Luminate as well if you need to review them and learn them yourself. Okay, give me a second over here. Okay, so these are all the relevant videos so far. There's the kidney ones, and then there's the skull, upper arm, pelvic. Yeah, please watch them. Okay, it will help you learn them easier. Okay, so let's move on. Uh, how about this? Okay, let's give you a softball here. Easy question. Give me the answer. Show me that you learned something. Anyone else? Come on, you wrote this down, right? You drew the picture, right? That's good, right? I mean, I didn't get all the answers, but everybody who answered got it right. The correct answer is the lacuna. Okay, lacuna. Very good. Moving on. How about this? Remember my tissue paper? If you peel off this outermost layer, it's where the muscle and the blood vessels will be attaching. What do we call the connective tissue? Okay, very good. It's the periosteum. Periosteum. Okay. Some people chose diaphysis. That's the shaft of the bone, the long portion of the long bone. Okay. Correct answer is periosteum. All right, what's next? Let's see. The skull. We're gonna go ahead and look at the skull. Um, just give me a second. I want to see what's going on here with the notes. Okay, I think we can. Okay, I'm gonna talk through it first, and then we're gonna take a break, and then when we come back, we will maybe color the skull together, enable it. Okay. So the skull includes the cranium, which is just the part that protects the brain. Not everything in the head is gonna protect the brain, right? Like your jaw, lower jaw here, that's not gonna protect your brain, right? Like your bones here and the face, not gonna protect your brain, right? So those that do not protect the brain, we call them facial bones, and those that do, we call that the cranium. Okay. And the cranium, as I'll show you in a second, the cranial bones, they are joined together by these things called sutures. It will look like as if someone take a sewing kit and stitch them together. That's what they're called sutures. All right. So here is the skull, and this is the side view. There are some stuff that you don't have to know, okay? Like really specific stuff, like these, like coronoid process of the mandible and so on and so forth. Like you don't have to know it, okay? You just have to know the bones, okay? The bones of the skulls, which are all listed here, okay? So frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, they are named after the lobes of the brain, so not terribly difficult. Um, Okay, and then there are these things. You can read through it later. I'm gonna explain it on the 3D model, and then we're gonna label it together. But I'm just showing you the slides here. Okay, it's all here. Right? And you're wondering, hey, why are some of them like have two stars instead? What is the suture? I'll show you. Okay, suture is where the bones join together. Okay, so did I tell you? Okay, I didn't say what they mean. Okay, but then the ones that are starred, these are the ones that makes up your orbit. Okay, orbit, orbit. Orbit is the side is the eye socket. There are seven bones that makes up your eye socket. Okay, and we're gonna take a closer look at them right now. So on Luminate, if you go to lecture 10, you see that's the osteon. Right? Each lecture I try to put in something that relates to it, right? Like these are the glomerulus. These are the osteons. Anyways, we're gonna go to 3D models. Full. Oh, look, there's compact bone. I didn't even know I had compact bone. Sorry, a little bit of a scatterbrain this morning. But here is the compact bone. Let's give it a look. Right. Uh, let's make it full screen. And 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 again, it's not like fantastic, but you can rotate it and see. Like I, this here on the outside, periosteum, and that's what you need to do. You need to look at this thing with no label and try to identify as much as you can. And this one here, each of these circle is an, you don't have to say it. Like you can say it to yourself. You don't have to say it to me, right? Osteon, right? And what they did here with this model is they kind of pull it out ring by ring, and you can see, right? It's like this. And at the very center, that's where you will have the central canal. That's where the blood vessel is going to be popping out from. and you can trace the blood vessels. Right? They go all the way through the shaft, the diaphysis, and then there are like horizontal canal that they can go through, and eventually it goes all the way to the surface, right, to the periosteum. And over here, closer to the center, that's where it transitions into spongy bones. Okay, and there's little black things all over the place. Right? If you're saying lacuna to the screen, good job. And all these little cracks that are coming out of it are the caniculi. Okay. So play around with the 3D models, please. They're there to help you. At least I hope. And later on, you're gonna have a chance to do the course review, right? Uh, Please, write some comments. Tell me what's working for you. You took the whole course. What was useful resources? What are things that you've never used? And maybe we shouldn't have them on the platform anymore, right? Tell me, because if you don't tell me, I won't know. Okay, don't just tell me everything is good because I know it's not. Um, Full skeleton here. That's the one we need. Full skeleton. Okay. Um, so we are just looking at the skull right now. Okay, I'll talk through it with you. You can have the PowerPoint slide next to you, and we'll color it together maybe. Okay, I'll see. So this is the skull. These things like the ear and the nose, these are cartilage. You won't see them. You won't see them in the decomposed body. Okay, because cartilage is uh, organic, and if it's organic, it gets eaten away. Okay, and the skeleton, the organic part, will decompose, but not the mineral portion. Okay, so that's why no nose for our skeleton right here. Okay, so first of all, right here, frontal bone. Okay, that's easy because the frontal bone protects the frontal lobe. Okay, if you forget something, you're like, I remember now. You slap your forehead, you're slapping your frontal lobe, frontal bone. Okay, the frontal bone. Maybe it's better with my fingers here. There we go. Okay. The frontal bone also extends into the top portion, superior portion of your eye socket. Okay. It actually forms a majority of your upper eye socket. Okay. So you want to pay attention to that. I'm going to ask you questions later on about which bone forms which part of the eye socket. Okay. So write it down. Frontal bone forms the upper part, superior part of your eye socket. Another name for eye socket is orbit. Orbit. Now I'm just gonna rotate the head here to the top. Okay. Someone was asking what was suture. This is suture. You see the junction between different bones in the head. It's as if someone stitched it together. That's what they're called sutures. Okay. The sutures have names, so we don't care. Okay. Next, if you're overwhelmed by all these and you're holding her like, oh, I can't think anymore, right? So what are you holding? You are holding the parietal bones. Parietal bone. Right? So you have two parietal bones, one on each side. Parietal bones. Okay. They have absolutely nothing to do with your orbit. Okay. Nothing to do with your eye sockets, but you have two of them. Okay. And they connect at the top. And at the back, they make a connection with another bone. This bone is called the occipital bone. Again, so far it's not difficult. If you know the names of the brain lobes, which I really hope you do, okay, they are just named after them. Now, the occipital bone has something special. Let me try to isolate it for a second. This is the occipital bone, and it actually forms like almost like a chair, okay, like a L shape, right? It forms the base of your skull as well. Now there is a big hole here, right? A hole in in a bone or in the body. Actually, I told you this before. Anybody remember what is the name? Like what do we call a hole in the body? Starts with an F.
Sure,
Sorry, what was that again? I
sure.
no, not that. The hole starts with an F.
Foramen, foramen.
Foramen, that's right,
Mm,
foramen.
foramen.
Okay, so Foramen, foramen. And this is a really big hole. Big is magnum. This is called foramen magnum. What comes out of this big hole at the base of your skull? You must know, right? Come on, everybody. What structure is going to come out of there?
The brainstem is spinal cord.
That's right. The brainstem, the medulla oblongata, is right here on the inside of the skull, and then it's going to exit from the foramen magnum. All this is in the notes, and we can label it together later. And then it's going to become the spinal cord. Okay. Now, another thing to note here, and all these is also in those video that I post in the chat box. Okay, you should definitely watch them. Right here, there's a round knob. Okay, there are two of them right next to the foramen magnum. Those round knobs allows us to nod our heads. Okay, it forms a connection with the first bone in the backbone, and it allows rocking motion. Okay, back and forth like that. Um, and like I said, all these are in the notes here. One occipital bone. There is the foramen magnum. Okay, foramen is a whole. Magnum means big. And that's where the medulla oblongata comes out and becomes the spinal cord. And flanking the foramen magnum, we have these two round processes, means something that sticks out. Okay, round knobs. They are called occipital condyle, and it makes a connection with the first bone in our backbone. Okay, backbone is also called spinal column or vertebral column. We'll write all these down later on. Okay, any questions so far? Frontal, parietal, occipital. Questions before we move on to other stuff. Okay, let's take a look at other bones right here. This one, anybody want to guess what that might be? Just think about the lobes of the brain. Okay, maybe on the other side as well. Okay, frontal, parietal, occipital,
Temporal?
temporal. That is absolutely correct. That is the temporal bone. Okay, now temporal bone is there are a few landmarks here. Okay, temporal bone. You can see there is a big hole there. What is that hole? What is that hole? You know it. We learned it before. What is that hole? That is the ear. That's right. The ear canal. Okay. Not like the peanut ear, but the ear canal, by the auditory canal. All right. So that's actually part of the temporal bone. Isn't that cool? Now, why don't you take your hand and then you feel the back of your ear. Do you feel a knob? Right? The back of the ear. I can't show you. It's like right here, around here. There's a knob right there. This the knob is this thing right here. Okay. That's what you're feeling. It's an important connection point because there is a muscle that goes from here. It's called the mastoid process. You don't have to know it. It goes from here all the way to your sternum. There is a muscle that connects from here all the way to your sternum. Right? What does it do? It allows you to pull the head down like this. Right? There's the other muscle on the other side from the mastoid process, back of the ear to your sternum, and it allows you to turn this way. Okay? Two big muscle here. All right? Anyways, that, my friend, is the temporal bone, and it has the ear canal and the mastoid process here. Okay, you can feel it. Okay, moving on. We have this one here. This is called the maxilla. The maxilla. Okay, if we rotate the skull like this, the maxilla right here forms part of the medial side of your eye socket as well as most of the bottom. Okay, frontal forms the top, maxilla forms the bottom. Okay, maxilla bone. And the maxilla is also important for forming your uh, sockets for the upper row of your teeth. And we actually talked about maxilla before. I don't know if I can show you a good view here. Maybe not. But it forms the front of your hard palate as well. Remember, if you push your tongue up, it feels hard. The hard palate, the front portion is formed by the maxilla. Okay, we have two maxilla. I know it looks like one here, but it's actually fused together. There's a little fissure right here. And we have the left and right maxilla. Okay, you can run your hand up here on the side. You can feel the maxilla. Maxilla also gives you lovely cheeks, okay? Along with the next bone that we're going to talk about is the zygomatic bone. Okay? Zygomatic bone, the cheekbone, right, forms a connection with the maxilla right here, and you have two zygomatic bones, one on each side. So zygomatic bone forms the lateral side of your eye socket. Okay, so just one more time. Frontal at the top of the eye socket, maxilla for the bottom and a bit of the side inside of the eye socket. And then you have the zygomatic, which makes up your cheekbone. Okay, some people have very prominent cheeks. That means they have a very prominent zygomatic bone. Okay, let's look at some of the other more obscure bones. We have two more bones that makes up the three more bones that makes up the medial side of your eye socket, starting with the necromal bone. Okay, there are two necromal bones, one here, and then slowly you have another necromal bone right here. Okay, inside the necromal bone is where you will find your tear ducts. Okay, so when you're crying, the tears goes flow. The tear gland actually is around here, and then the tear comes down, and then it goes towards the center of the eye, and then there is a tear duct inside the necromal bone that runs the tears to the nose. When you're crying, you're like, sniffing too, right? You all the tears going to the nose. It's through the tear ducts right there. Okay, so behind the necromal bone, we have one ethmoid bone. Okay, really big right there, ethmoid bone. It also forms your nasal septum. You see? It forms the wall that separates your left and right nostril. There is your ethmoid bone. Okay? So maxilla, necromal, ethmoid. Two maxilla, two necromal, two ethmoid. The back of the eye socket is formed by this thing called the sphenoid bone. The sphenoid bone is the cornerstone of your skull. Okay? A lot of bones attached to the sphenoid bone. You see? Ethmoid bone attaches to it. The temporal bone attached to it, frontal bone, parietal bone. Okay? Everything attaches to the sphenoid bone, um, one way or the other. Even the maxilla right here, right? You see? So that forms the back of the bone, and it's goes from one side all the way to the other side. Let me just isolate it for you. Uh, oops, I isolated the wrong one. Oh boy. Now we have to start again. Let's see. Isolate. There we go. Looks like a bat, okay, or butterfly. Use your imagination. And at the back of the sphenoid bone, there are two holes. There are two holes. Remember, the sphenoid bone forms the back of your eye socket, and then there are two holes. Can you tell me, all right, using everything we learned from the course so far, what goes through those holes at the back? Okay, the people say, okay, optic nerve. There we go. Excellent. Okay. You know the eyeball, right? Eyeball has the nerve coming out from it, and we need to have an opening for the nerves to go through. Excellent. Right. Now, if you look at the top of the sphenoid bone, there is a little pouch there, if you would, little indentation. What brain part do you think sits in this thing here? This is called the cellular tertia. Tertia, I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, it's in the notes. Let me show you. Right here. There you go. Cellular tersica or something. I can't remember how to pronounce it. Tertica? Tertica? Sorry, I'm embarrassing myself here. Anyways, this thing is the little saddle right here. That is where the pituitary gland is gonna fit into. Okay, and it protects the pituitary gland. Yeah, you see that? Okay, so there we go. Uh, sphenoid bone. All right, let's go back here. I think we covered all the bones. Maybe one more to go. There we go. Okay. Right here. This is the mandible. It is the only movable bone in the whole head. Right? The mandible forms a joint with your temporal bone. Okay, this is called the TMJ, right? Your dentist might have mentioned that to you, right? Some people, when they move their joint, they hear a clicking sound at the MTJ right here, mandibular temporal joint, and it allows you to move your mouth, okay, to chew. Right? There's a muscle that goes from here. You can put your hand right here, and you can pretend to chew. You can feel it moving. That's the muscle that moves your jaw up and down. And that is it. Oh, actually, there's a nasal bone here. Nasal bone. If you wear glasses, that's where the glasses are sitting on. Okay, nasal bone. It doesn't form the entire nose because the nose is made of cartilage, but then there is the nasal bone right here. It's actually five bones that are kind of fused together. All right. We will leave it at that for the moment. When we come back, maybe we'll color some of the things. Um, or actually, maybe not. Okay, maybe we won't color. There are coloring sheets in the study notes, study guide right here, and I think it may be better. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So maybe you can color it yourself. The answers are all there anyways. So I'll leave it up for you, okay, in case you want to look at it during the break. But we will come back at 9:50, 56. See you in a bit. 9:56, okay? All right, and we are back. Let's go through more slides. So once again, you can go through the pictures yourself. If we didn't talk about it, then you don't have to know it. Okay, like these things, armor, you don't have to know it. These landmarks, they usually have names. Okay, so like all the extra stuff, you don't have to know. Okay, but the ones that are listed on the PowerPoint slides, you would have to know. Okay, the ones that are starred, it showed you. It's part of the eye socket. So there's seven bones in the eye socket, okay? Seven bones uh that forms. Oh, I just remember I forgot to tell you about one more bone. Okay, so anyway, let's list down the seven bones first. The top we have frontal, okay? Lateral side. Lateral is like, on the outer side. Lateral side, and we have the zygomatic, which is also a cheekbone. Medial side, there are three bones that forms the medial side. Maxilla, part of it anyways. Ethmoid, and lacrimal. Lacrimal is the one with the tear duct. Uh, bottom. Bottom is going to be the maxilla again, and then the back, sphenoid. Okay, so I think there are only 6 bones here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maxilla again, and then 6. And then there is a 7th bone that kind of forms the back as well. It is called the palatine. If it sounds familiar, it's because we learn it in the digestive system, right? I'll show you the palatine again. Yeah, but we'll write it down first. Palatine bone. All right, so here's the 3D model, the palatine bone. Right there. Just form a tiny, tiny knob of your entire orbit. Okay. But if we isolate it, you can see the palatine bone actually forms a U shape, and this is going to be the posterior portion of your hard palate. Okay. At the front is your maxilla, the back is your palatine. All right. So 7 bones. And let's go back here. Okay, pretty much everything I said to you. Oh, I look up how to pronounce this during the break. Okay, it's cellular turcica. Turcica. Cellular turcica. It's the again the groove where the pituitary gland is gonna sit right into it. Okay, you need to protect this gland. This pituitary gland secretes a lot of hormones, and it stores hormone from the hypothalamus as well. Okay, like ADH, we learned that for the renal unit, and you will have to know it for the quiz. By the way, the quiz, since we are talking about it right now, the quiz is going to be on Wednesday. I don't want to exit this screen, but it's on Luminate. Okay, you can check it. I forgot how many questions, but it's all written there. Right? There's no short answer this time. Maybe that's gonna, give you a little bit of a relief. It's all multiple choice. There are some multi-select questions. 4 multi-select, I remember that, but I don't remember how many multiple choice questions there are. 2 attempts. You will be able to see your mark immediately afterwards. No, I don't think it's Friday. I think it's you know what? I guess I'll have to exit here. No, I think it's Wednesday. I just checked this morning. Let's see. It's usually the test that's like on the Friday, but the quiz is going to be on the day of the lesson. Uh, there we go. Anatomy. Quiz number 3. Yeah, March 26th. March 26th. Yeah, it's going to be Wednesday. 22 multiple choice questions, 4 multi-select. And like I said, 2 attempts. And you will be able to see your marks right away. And you can decide if you want to do a second attempt or not. Okay. But it's the highest mark that's going to count. All right. I mean, if you get like, I don't know, 95% on the first try, then, maybe it's not worth it to do it again. It takes time, right? But it's up to you. Okay. 2 attempts. All right. Which of the following is not part of the orbit? I'll let you try that yourself later. Um, Anyways, let's move on. So next we have the spinal uh, column. Okay, spinal column or the vertebral column. Vertebral column. Okay. Um, each each of these things, each of the section that makes up the whole backbone is called a vertebra. Okay, this is like one bone in the column. Okay, so vertebral is just like the adjective of vertebra. Plural of vertebra is vertebrae. Vertebrae. So there are seven cervical vertebrae, makes up the neck region here. 12 thoracic vertebrae, makes up the, chest area. Five lumbar, and then we have the sacrum right here, and then the tailbone is called the coccyx bone. If you have trouble pronouncing some of these words with the Y, just change it to an I and sound it out, okay? Coccyx, coccyx bone. The backbone, this vertebral column, if you look at it from the side, it has two prominent um, curvature. It's concaved in the chest area, in the thoracic region, and then convex, as in it bulges out in the lumbar section. It's not always like this, okay? When we were still crawling as babies, the shape is relatively straight. But as soon as we start to learn how to walk, the weight of the body helps form these curvatures in the body. If we have, you know, um, inadequate calcium intake, then the backbone will get weaker. And as we age, it can no longer support the weight of the upper body. And then the person hunches forward, right? We call that hunchback. I'm sure you have seen that before. What is the next slide? Okay, before that, I want you to show you a few other things on the 3D models, and then we're going to come back to it. Let me see. So we're going to open up this thing again. And this time we're going to focus on the backbone, um, which is a little bit hard to do. I need to delete everything. Oh, and all the teeth and everything. Oh, that's really hard to do. Just give me a second. That's what happens when you use the free version. When you have the paid version, you can just hide stuff. Okay? I'm just gonna leave the teeth there. It looks kind of scary, but doesn't matter. Just ignore them, okay? This was the hyoid bone, right, from before. I don't know if you remember that. So over here, you can see at the top we have seven cervical bones here. Seven cervical bones. Okay. So number one, number two, three, four, five, and then six and seven. It forms the neck. Okay, it forms the neck. Fun fact, uh, you would think a giraffe has, more cervical bones, right? Because it has a very long neck, but they don't. Yeah? They also has the same number of cervical bone as us. Okay, but much bigger and much longer for each bone. Now, the first bone in the cervical section is called the atlas. That's C1, atlas. And then the next one is called axis, which is C2. Right? And then they have no more special name. It's just C3, C4, C5, C6, C7. But C1 and C2, they have special names. Okay. C1 is atlas, C2 is axis. Let's take a closer look at the atlas right here. Isolate right here. So at the top of the atlas, there are two grooves here, and those grooves will allow the occipital bone to sit right in it. Remember, occipital bone has a big hole at the bottom, the foramen magnum, and on the side, you have those little round knobs, right? Called the occipital condyle, which will fit right into these grooves to allow us to nod the head. There is a big hole in the center of C1 of Atlas, and that is for the second bone to go right through. Let me go back to here again. There we go. You can see this is C2. Can I isolate both of them? Oh, no, I cannot. That is unfortunate. Let's try that again. C2 right here, isolate. There we go. This is C2, and there's a little protrusion that's poking out from C2. This is going to go through the hole of C1, and it forms a pivot joint, okay, that allows us to shake the head. Okay? So C1 and C2 allows us to turn the head sideways. Occipital bone and C1 allows us to kind of nod our head. Okay, let's just reset this thing here. Now, another thing I want to show you is that as we go down, we can see the size of the vertebra gets bigger. And let's take a look at this one here. C1, right? It's relatively small. Okay, there's a little thing sticking out at the back. There are two connection point at the top and two at the bottom. And then if we take a look at a bigger one over here, a lower one, it's bigger in size. So as we move down the spinal cord, the size of the vertebra gets bigger, which makes sense because you got to support all the weights that's on top of you, right? You need it to be big. But for the most part, they share similar um, features. Okay. At the back here, there is a protrusion that's called the spinous process. It's all in the notes I'll show you. If you take your finger and you run it down the back of your neck slowly, right, you can feel the little ridges, right? Okay, you can go all the way down to your back. The ridges that you're feeling is actually the protrusion of this knob here. Okay. Now, if I go back to here, you can see, maybe you can see. Oh yeah, you definitely can see over here. You can see these are the knobs that I was talking about, the spinous process. It locks the backbone in place. Okay. So it allows us to bend forward, but not backwards too much. If you bend backwards too much, they basically will get in the way of each other and you won't be able to bend back any further. And that's important for stability. Yeah, otherwise we just like wobble back and forth like those, balloon things outside of car dealership. Okay. And then they no longer lock too much once we get to the lower back. And that's why we can bend back quite far at the lower back, but not so much at the core region. Okay. One more thing I want to show you is that at the top here, we have two connection points to connect with the top bone. And then we have two connection points here at the bottom to connect with the bottom bone. Yeah. So these things have names as well. Do I have them in the notes, but I don't think I need you to know them. Okay, yeah. I'll just mention it, okay? So these are at the top, so it's called the superior articular process. Superior is on top, articular means to connect, and processes are things that's sticking out. Okay, so let me use it in a sentence for you to help you understand. This one is L1. All right, so let me choose another one. Let me choose L2 right here. L2. Okay, so listen and see if it makes sense. So the superior articular process of L2 will connect with the inferior articular process of L1. Okay, basically, the top parts of one bone connects with the bottom part of the next bone. That's what it means. The inferior articular process will connect with the superior articular process of L3. Now, when the two bone connects with each other, there is going to be a hole on the side. A hole is called a foramen. Okay? What comes out of that hole? What do you think? Let me just go back here to show you the hole. Okay, let me try to zoom in a little bit more. Right there. Look at that big hole between L3 and L4, between L2 and L3. They all have a hole. We can move up here. The rib cage is kind of in the way. You got to play around with these things, okay? If you want to delete a bone, you just click on it and press delete. Okay, but my question is, what is gonna come out of of this hole right here? Any takers? Anybody? We've learned this. That's right, the spinal nerves. Spinal nerves going to come right out of here. Okay, we have 31 pairs of them. Okay, so as we move down, finally we're going to have the sacrum right here, sacrum, and then the coccyx. Coccyx is the tailbone, right? Tailbone, coccyx bone. Right? If we had a tail, we will have more of these coccyx bone. That's all. Okay, so atlas and axis, they form a pivot joint like this, and then you can see the two vertebrae connecting together with the spinal nerve coming on the side. Okay, and we have the spinal process coming out at the back. All right. Just understand the big concepts, the names, you should be okay. Um, I don't think I put like very specific type of questions on the test. But this is not on the quiz on Wednesday, right? This is on the final test. Um, so maybe don't worry about it at this point.
So the final test will cover which lecture, please?
10, 10, 11, and 12. 10, 11, and
10,
12.
11, and 12.
That's right. Okay, let's take a look at the next part, which is the sternum. The sternum. Okay, so we're going to go back here. You can see this is the sternum. The sternum has three parts. The top part is called the manubrium, man, and then ubrium, manubrium. Okay? And then the next part is called the body of the sternum. And the notch here is called the xiphoid process. Xiphoid. You can feel it right here. Just press it down in the middle of the chest. There is a knob right there. Xiphoid process. So the manubrium allows the first pair of ribs to connect to it. Okay? You have 12 pairs of ribs. Number one connects with the manubrium. And part of number two also attached to the manubrium. And number two actually attaches on the interface, the connection point between the manubrium and the body. Okay, so one and two connects to manubrium. And then the sternum will allow the rest of the ribs to connect to it. Number two to seven. Two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay. What about 8 to 12? More on that in a bit. We have 12 pairs of ribs, right? Okay. So manubrium 1 and 2, body of the sternum, 2 to 7, nothing connects to the xiphoid. But the xiphoid process is the connecting point for your diaphragm. Okay, we don't have the diaphragm here in this diagram, in this picture, but the diaphragm will hook onto the xiphoid process so you can breathe. All right. So three parts of your sternum. Okay, it used to be if you need to operate on the heart, they need to cut your sternum open and crack your chest, crack your rib cage. Okay? But no longer. Okay? They could have the endoscope, little cameras. Okay, so that's the sternum. The ribs. 12 pairs of ribs, number 1 to 7, we call them true ribs. Okay, and then the false ribs are the rest of them. Okay, the rest of them. But actually, there is a mistake here. I should update it. I recently found out that no, there's no mistake. Sorry, I already changed the mistake. Yeah. The five pairs of ribs are called false ribs, and the last two pairs of the false ribs are called floating ribs. Okay, let me explain on the picture here. It makes more sense. Okay, so once again, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first seven, true ribs. They are true ribs because each of the rib connects to the sternum directly through the cartilage, through the costal cartilage. Number one has his own cartilage. Number two has his own cartilage. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the first seven are true ribs because their costal cartilage attaches directly to the sternum. Then number 8, 9, 10, and then 11 and 12. 11 is right here. 11 and 12. They are called false ribs. False rib because they do not attach directly to the sternum. Starting with number eight, you can follow the cartilage. The cartilage of number 8 actually connects with the cartilage of number 7 before going to the sternum. Number 9 and 10 does the same thing. Okay. So if you're writing, listen. 8, 9, 10, their costal cartilage attaches to the cartilage of number 7 instead of going to the sternum directly. 11 and 12, they are part of the false ribs, but in addition, they are also called floating ribs because they don't have any cartilage. Okay. They are just like, fangs that are sticking out over there, and they never make any connection with the sternum. Okay. I hear stories where people would take off some of these like the 11 and the 12 to have like a slimmer waist. I never actually fact checked that one, but I've heard stories about it. Maybe you can check it out later. All right. Oh, I can see there's a little bit of cartilage here, but they don't connect at all. That's what makes them floating. All right, at the back, uh, this is first rib. Where does the first rib connect to? First rib connects to T1.
Atlas.
Yeah,
Oh,
T1, the thoracic, right? T2, that's where the second rib comes from, and so on and so forth. That's why the thoracic portion has 12 vertebrae, T1 to T12, right? And that's where each pair of the ribs comes out from. Okay. Same number of ribs for both male and female, all right? We both have 12 pair of ribs, 24 in total. Any questions?
what can be the advantage or disadvantage of those false ribs?
The false ribs?
Yeah.
You mean
Um,
the floating ones?
the floating, what
Yeah.
can be the disadvantage of
Oh,
having,
the disadvantage of having the floating ribs?
yes,
I'm not sure.
or the advantage, I don't know.
I don't know if there's a disadvantage of having them, but basically, anytime you have the bones there, it's not just the two bones hanging in the in the abdominal cavity doing nothing, right? There are muscles that attach to them, right? And these muscles, they are often breathing muscles, right? So, they are providing attachment points for those muscles, so we can have stronger breathing, I suppose, right? So that's that. Okay. What is next? I have no idea. Let's take a look. Oh, shoulder girdles now. Shoulder girdles. Let's take a look at the bones in the shoulders. Again, like I said, it's not difficult, but it's annoying because there's so many bones you have to memorize, right? So this is the shoulder girdles. There are actually various bones here, starting with this S-shaped bone, which is called the clavicle. Do you guys know the regular name for the clavicle? Like it goes from here all the way to the shoulder here. What do we call that bone? You can probably see mine right here. There. Okay. What do we call that?
Is collarbone?
Collarbone. That's right. There you go. Now you have two collarbones, okay? One on each side. Okay. And the front portion connects to the manubrium of the sternum. Manubrium. And it traces all the way back and it makes a connection with your shoulder blade. Okay, shoulder blade is called the scapula. Scapula. Again, you can probably feel the spine of the scapula right here. Spine of scapula. Right? Again, Just rub it against your back right there. And there is a big muscle that attaches to your shoulder right here. It's this muscle called the deltoid, right? And it allows us to do all kinds of motion in the shoulder area. And we have this bone here called the humerus, the funny bone, humerus right here. And the humerus has like a ball shape at the top, and it makes a connection with the scapula right here. If I delete the humerus, you can see there's the socket that allows the humerus to stick inside, and that forms a ball and socket joint. Okay, so three bones in the shoulder girdle, clavicle, scapula, and the humerus. It's a ball and socket joint, very flexible, but there is always a trade-off. If something is very flexible, then it's easy to get injured. Okay, you've probably seen it in movie where people have like a dislocated joint. What's not true in the movie is if you have a dislocated joint, you can't just pop it in yourself. Okay, those really tough guys in the movie, they just bang themselves against the wall and put it back in. No, that's not really what happens in real life. If you have a dislocated shoulder, it's gonna hurt, and you need to seek medical attentions. The socket that I showed you on the scapula, it's called a glenoid cavity. Okay, glenoid cavity. One more time here. Okay. This is the head of the humerus, and this is the glenoid cavity, which is part of your shoulder blade, part of your scapula. Okay, scapula right here. All right, let's put the humerus back on, and we're going to go down to the distal end. Remember, I taught you last semester, proximal, distal, right? So ball and socket at the proximal end, and the distal end here, we're looking at the left humerus. If we're looking at it from the back right here, you can see the left humerus will form a hinge joint with the ulna over here, the elbow right here. That's the ulna that you're feeling. And on the side, you have the radius. Humerus, ulna, radius. So one bone for the upper arm, the funny bone, humerus, two bones for the forearm. If you eat chicken, what part of the chicken looks like this? Anybody? Chickens has the same bones as us. Okay.
The
The
wings.
wings, that's right. The chicken wings. This is the chicken wings. Okay. It's exactly the radius and the ulna that we have. Next time you eat chicken wings, you can relate to it. Right? So hinge joint here. Right? You can do this. Okay, but like you can do a little bit of rotation, but definitely not like full swing rotation at the elbow, right? Okay. Like it's very limited motion. Okay, moving down, we have little bones here. Okay, there are eight of these bones. One, two, three, four, five, and then six, seven. And then I think I can't rotate, but there's another one there at the back. These are called the carpals. Okay, carpals. Forms the bones of your wrists. Carpals right here. And further down, I mean, they all have names, okay? But we don't have to worry about it. Just call them carpals collectively. C-A-R, car, and then pals, P-A-Ls. People who carpools with you, carpals, your carpals, carpals right here. What condition do you know that has the same name? Like it hurts here. People who use their mouths in strange positions.
About on earth.
That's right, carpal tunnel syndrome. Carpal right here. Okay, and then the back of your hand, that is made up of these metacarpals, five of them, eight carpals, five metacarpals, and then the finger bones. All the finger bones, they are called meninges. Sorry, no, no, I confused with phalanges, phalanges. Okay, phalanges. Okay. So if you look at your thumb, if you look at my thumb, uh, there are only two phalanges, one and two. That's why you can only bend your thumb once. But for the other fingers, you have three phalanges, one, two, and three. Okay. So each of these four fingers has three phalanges. And once again, one, two, three. So 3 times 4 is 12. But then for your thumb, you only have two. So 14 phalanges in total. All right. Let's take a look at the PowerPoint slides again. Okay, that's the chicken wings versus the human hand. That's the like the mini drumstick. Okay, that's the wing, and this is the tip. That's all skin and no meat. Tastes good, but not good for your health. Radius ulna connects with the carpals. Metacarpals is the back of the hand, and then we have the phalanges. All right. There are uh, diagrams here. You can color it. I already posted the answers. Um, we can probably color it next class as review if you want. We'll see. I don't know. Let's just keep on going for now. Okay. I probably need to do this with you. This one is complicated. Um, let me just delete this first, and then we'll come back to it after I copy it. Okay. We'll do that in a bit. Okay, let's do some polls and see where you're at. All right, go, go, go. Okay, I know you guys probably get overwhelmed with all the bones already, right? Okay, let's go through it one more time. Okay, here we go. Uh, this here, right, and you should feel your own bone to make a connection. Okay, over here, this is the humerus. Humerus. Okay, humerus makes a connection at the shoulder, right? Ball and socket. Humerus. And then your forearm, there are two bones. The ones that are on the outside, right? This one is the radius. Okay, on the other hand, this is the radius. Okay, the one that is lateral. Radius, radius. Okay, what about the inner one? Okay, inner one is called the ulna. Okay, so one more time. Humerus, radius, ulna. Got it? And then the hand. Wrist bones, we call them carpals. Back of the hand, metacarpals, and then fingers, phalanges. Okay, phalanges. If you want, you can draw it out like this. Okay, let's say this is the right arm from the front. Okay, so it doesn't have to be fancy. Humerus, two bones over here. The ones on the side, remember looking at it from the front. So the one on the side, radius, ulna. How many here at the wrist? 8 of them. Carpals, your carpals. Metacarpals, 5. and then your finger bones. Okay, finger bones. If you're looking at this from the front, this is where the thumb is, only two, and then all the other ones have three. And that would be total of 14 phalanges. Okay, I hope that makes it a little bit better, perhaps. All right, I have a couple more coming. You know what? I will copy that to the notes so that you will have it. Okay, let me put the pelvic girdle down first. And I will copy this thing over in case you want it. There you go. Okay, let's do another one. What is that? Where's my poll? There it is. What bone is that? All right, most of you got it. It is the scapula. Scapula. Okay, remember, scapula is that big triangle bone right here. And there's a little uh, hook. The hook will connect with the collarbone there. There's a groove here for the head of the humerus to go in. Right? This thing is the scapula. Okay, someone chose coccyx. Coccyx is the tailbone. Okay. How about this one? What is that? Lovely. That is the clavicle. Everybody got it right. Everyone who chose something. That is the clavicle right here. At the front, it connects with the manubrium. Manubrium of the sternum. And at the back, it connects with the scapula, right? There's a little hook that I showed you in the previous picture. All right. Let me show you the hook again. Do, 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 do. Right here. There's the hook. Right? Right there. Connects with the clavicle. Okay. So like I said, the question is not going to be like out of this world. Right? It's pretty much, you know, you choose the names or I ask you what connects to what. Yeah.
Do we have to know the hook on the scapula?
Do you have to know the what of the scapula? I'm sorry.
The hook that is
Oh, the name of the hook? No, no, no.
yeah.
It's called acromion. You don't have to know. Okay, how about this one? This one is easy. Easier. What is that? Okay, this one is at the back, and it is the occipital bone. Occipital. Parietal is up here, okay? This is parietal. This is frontal, just like the lobes of the brain. This is temporal. This over here is occipital. Okay, remember there's a hole there at the bottom. It's a big hole. Foramen magnum. Okay. While we're at it, let's label a few more things. This guy is the mandible zygomatic right here, the cheekbone. And then this is maxilla right here, nasal bone. Right? This is what you have to do. Every time you see a skull picture, take the opportunity to identify as many things as you can. All right? You can do it. You can do it. How many finger bones do you have on each hand? Okay, I told you this a couple times. Do you remember the magic numbers? You can always count your fingers on the test. It's fine. All right, anyone else? Okay, two on the two on the thumb, three on each of the other four fingers. So that's 12 plus 2, 14. 14 phalanges. Phalanges. Carpals are these ones, okay? Think about carpal tunnel. Carpal is here. 8 carpals. Talking about a finger. Finger bones, 14. All right, this next part, um, next part is a little bit challenging. Let me see. You know what? Actually, I think we've covered enough for today. We've covered enough for today. So why don't we stop there for the time being? Um, do you guys want me to do the coloring with you? I mean, I could. Uh, but like I don't know how many of you actually have the printouts. We'll do this guy next time. But do you want me to do the colorings just to help you really consolidate it, or you think you can do that on your own? No, no. Here, I'll do a poll. I mean, only 6 of you do the poll, so you can decide the fate of the class. Yes for the coloring. A. No for coloring. You do it yourself later. Choose B. Do you want me to color or not? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. More people who want to color than people who don't. I mean, feel free to go. It's fine, right? Like no pressure. If you want to go, definitely go, and you can watch it later if you want. All right. I'm not gonna do anything new. Okay. I'm just gonna literally color all the stuff and then call it a day. All right. So feel free to go. No pressure. But if you want to stay, then
Hi,
stay.
hi, sir.
Yes, you've met. Go ahead.
So, I was gonna ask, is it possible, like, so basically, most of the questions you ask is the multiple choices. They have like 5 to 6 multiple choices. I was hoping you could like bring it down to like 3 or 4, so we don't get confused sometimes. Is it possible?
Oh yeah. I won't be able to make the change because like there's a really big bang, right? So I can go into all of them and then delete like a choice. It would, it'd be take me a lot of time. But I will reduce the number of questions, okay? Instead of number of choices, maybe I reduce the number of questions for the final test, so you will have more time to think about each individual questions. Is that something that's like I meet you halfway? That
Yeah,
okay?
that's fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So like I said, I'm just gonna color. If you gotta go, go, no problem. Not gonna I'm not gonna hold it against you. But here we go. These are pictures from the study guide. If you have them print out, now is the good time to use it. So here we go. The skull. We're just gonna Color the head here. Right there. Okay, don't forget to color the top part of the eye socket as well. Okay, there you go. And print more of these sheets out if you can, just to go through them again and again. There is no easy way of doing this. Okay? And you will need to, use these knowledge when you move on to your next program as well, right? Especially if you try to go into the practical nursing. You will, you will be learning these things all over again, just in more details. So that's the frontal bone right here. Only one of them. You only have one frontal bone, and it forms the top of your eye socket. All right, let's do something else right here. On the side, right here. Okay. That is the temporal bone. Temporal bone. You can see the parietal. Parietal is kind of like, a little bit higher. You won't be able to see it on the side. So these are the temporal bone. Okay, and you have two of them, one on each side. And key things to kind of remember, I guess, temporal bone contains,
Yeah.
that's right, ear canal. There you go. Now at the back here, we have that bone right there. Okay. It is a bat-shaped bone, and it goes from one side to the other. You can't really see it clearly from this angle, but that is the sphenoid bone. Okay, just one. And then there are some special features. There is an opening for optic nerve at the back. And there is the sella turcica at the top for pituitary gland. Right here, we have the nasal bone. Okay, remember the nasal bone is where you will be putting your, if you wear glasses, that's where you'll be resting your glasses on. Okay, and you actually have 5 of these, but like all fused together. It forms the bridge of the nose, the bridge of the nose. Okay, I'm just gonna outline this next one right here. There you go. That one, let's color it. Maxilla times 2, top teeth sockets, okay. Bottom of your eye socket as well. Right here, you color it in, as well as a little bit of the middle. A is the orbit eye socket. And on the side, we have the cheekbone. Cheekbone is zygomatic. Okay. Times 2. I'm just going to put cheekbone to help you remember it. Over here, we have part of the nasal septum. Separates the two half of the nose. And lastly, the only movable part of the head of the skull is this mandible. Okay. Actually, I just realized there's the knob that I asked you to feel earlier at the back of your ear. It's part of your temporal bone as well. Okay, so other bones that you cannot see here, but you should definitely go locate on the 3D model. We have the occipital, palatine, ethmoid, acromial, parietal. Okay, so these are other bones that is not on the diagram, but you definitely should search them up. Not search them up, but then you will be able to see these things like on a side view, right? I don't have a side view diagram for you, but you can definitely look at it with resources on Luminate. Okay, moving on. This is the rib cage. And our rib cage at the center has this bone. I think it's called the chest bone, like the regular name, if you would. There we go. So at the top, middle, bottom, this is called manubrium. Next part is probably the easiest bone name you'll ever learn. It's called the body. And then xiphoid for the diaphragm to attach onto. Together, it makes up the sternum. I'm going to color these cartilage for you. If you eat meat, and if you eat ribs, you sometimes will find the cartilage at the end of the ribs that you're eating. That's the costal cartilage of the animal. And we have those cartilage as well. There you go. So these are called costal cartilage. Costal. And let me label some of these things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. What do we call number 1 to 7? What kind of rips are they?
True ribs.
That's right. These are the true rips, the real deal. They are the ones that connects directly to the sternum with their own costocartilage. That's how we define them. They have their own connection through their own cartilage. Okay, it's going to be hard to do the next 5. So 8, 9, 10, and then 11 and 12. Number 8 to 12, false. False ribs. So they kind of piggyback on the costal cartilage of number 7 and has an indirect connection with the sternum. And within the false ribs, 11 and 12, they are floating. They do not connect with the sternum. 11 and 12, they're just kind of like right there. Okay? They do not connect. Play around with the 3D model and you'll see. I guess there are other things you can label here. This is thoracic, thoracic vertebrae. Okay. T1, T2, right? T1, T2, all the way to T12. T11. That's where each pair of the ribs originate from the back. All right. Uh, favorite questions I like to ask you guys all the time. Is it the right hand or left hand? It's just like, is it right brain or left brain? Is it the right hand or left brain? How do you tell?
Right.
And how do you tell? Like, how do you know is the right hand like this or like the left hand like this? Like, I hope you can tell this is the thumb.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. But the key giveaway is the radius over here, the radius. You see, the radius is on the side, right? Radius on the side. So if this is on the side, it couldn't have been the left hand. This has to be the right hand, and you're looking at it from the back. Okay. But I guess it doesn't really matter. This is radius is ulnar, and we have these things here. Okay, 8 of these things. Carpals. Carpals. And I would like to remind you, these are also long bones, even though they doesn't look very long, but they are rectangular in shape, so we still consider them as long bones. And how many of these do we have? 5. And finally, 2 phalanges for the thumb and 3 for each of the other fingers. Right? So to really remember these things, you do the coloring, you look through the 3D models, you try to write out on your own, make your own sketch. Doesn't have to be nice, but by writing it out, drawing it out, even just with those little boxes that I drew, right? That will help you. Okay, that's it for today. Any questions from the uh kidney stuff for the test that you want to ask before we go? Okay. Well, if you think of anything, sorry, you have one?
No, no, I think that's time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you have one, just email me, okay? And then I'll get back to you. Please come to class on Wednesday though, okay? Even though you have to write a quiz, but Wednesday class, the muscle, it's like you want to be here to learn that as well. All right, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.